Hi. For this discussion board, I've chosen to look at Chapter 2 from Larry Hurtado's book, Destroyer of the Gods. Hurtado breaks this chapter into the following sections: religion, a world full of gods, gods and idols, the particular Christian offense, the Christian God, and one God and one Lord Jesus. His material is quite thought-provoking and informative, though it seems that he stretches to get to some of his conclusions. I'll review Chapter 2 of his book in the order in which he presents things, discussing strengths, weaknesses, and its value for understanding the New Testament and early Christianity as I go through the material. Starting with the topic of religion, Hurtado says that due in large part to key features of Christianity, people today imagine that religion is an essential and ubiquitous feature of humans of all times and places. But is that really true? According to the CIA, almost a quarter of the United States population and 16% of the world population is non-religious. The increasing secularization of society has been well documented in the popular media, and anyone who engages with the broader community will almost certainly know multiple people who are either atheistic or who may believe in a higher power but clearly do not practice any form of religion in their daily living. Unfortunately, while Hurtado's contention here was probably true in the United States a few decades ago, religion being seen as essential and ubiquitous does not seem to be the case anymore. He then says that the Latin word for religion did not always mean something related to the gods, but could also mean being conscientious about certain duties. Because of this change in meaning, he says that it inhibits our understanding of what religion meant back then. But isn't this alternative meaning true today also? If someone does something every single week without failing, we often say that they do that thing religiously, even if it has nothing to do with God. We even say that for some people, science or even football is their religion. These are two examples of where Hurtado stretches things a little bit too far to make his point. But then Hurtado notes that, unlike other religions of the time, Christianity lacked an altar, a cult image, a priesthood, sacrifices, and shrines. This is a great observation, in part because it shows how Christianity differed not only from Greco-Roman religions, but also from Judaism. It is also insightful regarding how in parts of Christianity since then, several of these components worked their way back into Christianity, especially in Catholicism. Finally, Hurtado notes that pagans would have tolerated Christianity if only Christians would have worshipped the traditional gods of the time. I believe this is a very strong point that Hurtado could have emphasized even more. While there are several differences, some of which I just mentioned, it is this singular issue of exclusivity that I believe stands out alone from all the others. We still encounter this objection today, where some people would be okay with Christianity if it would only tolerate all the things that the world holds dear, yet Christianity objects to. Turning to his next section, A World Full of Gods, Hurtado notes that the many gods of different types of the people believed in back then. A key point is that people believed that all gods deserved to be reverenced, even if they were not gods that you worshipped. Oftentimes, these gods were associated with specific occasions or places, and city centers were often filled with temples and shrines of these various gods. This information is helpful in picturing what it must have been like for new Christians, surrounded by the gods of their old life, yet taking a strongly countercultural stance as a Christian and rejecting what was so prevalent all around. The key takeaway from his third section, Gods and Idols, is that piety for pagans, that is, worshiping their gods, was actually idolatry for Christians, that is, a grave impiety. The first part of the fourth section, the particular Christian offense, is also very helpful for illuminating what it must have been like for early Christian converts. While Judaism was also monotheistic, it was tolerated as a specific ethnic oddity. Christianity, on the other hand, was transethnic, and this is what caused such great offense. Not only were temples and shrines common in the city centers, but taking part in these other religions was a key part of people's daily lives, no matter where they lived. Not taking part in these religions was seen as antisocial. It showed disloyalty to one's city and a disregard for the welfare of the inhabitants of that area. Since placating the gods depended upon such worship, Christians were even called atheists for not taking part. They must have endured tremendous peer pressure and rejection for becoming Christian. In the second part of this section, Hurtado gives additional differences between Christianity and other religions of the first century. First, while ritual cleansings were somewhat common, Christian baptism was a one-time rite that established acceptance into the church, whereas ritual cleansings in other religions were typically events that occurred multiple times whenever one wanted to enter a sacred space. Second, shared meals were also common, but in the Lord's Supper, Christ was present and presiding. Third, prayer was practiced differently in Christianity than in other religions. Fourth and last, Christian worship was corporate rather than individual and was done regularly, that is weekly, rather than just on special occasions. The fifth section, The Christian God, focuses on key differences of belief. Christians worshiped a radically transcendent God rather than a God who was part of nature. While some philosophers posited the possibility of a transcendent God, they did not consider engaging such a God directly, as the Christians did. Even more unique was that the Christian God actually loved humans and sought to redeem and reconcile them to himself. While the other differences mentioned may have been more visible, these differences in belief were what truly set Christianity apart from all other religions. The sixth and last section, One God and One Lord Jesus, discusses the differences between Christianity and Judaism. While to some extent Christianity could be seen as one of many options within Judaism, it was clearly distinctive from the other options. A central tenet of Judaism is that there is only one God. While this is true in Christianity as well, both the intensity and the types of reverence given to Jesus sets Christianity apart from any other option. Not only did Christians see Jesus as God, their devotional pattern was one where Jesus was central. Nothing like this existed in any other form of Judaism. Hurtado summarizes this chapter by saying, quote, "My main point is that early Christianity was characterized by a distinctive pattern of religious beliefs and practices that made it distinguishable in the larger Roman world. Early Christianity represented a new kind of religion, something that had not quite been seen before, and something that proved revolutionary in what religion came to mean thereafter." Unquote. Hurtado is certainly correct regarding the numerous differences just discussed. Christianity had several key differences from the other religions of the time. But I suggest that the primary difference, and the one that caused so much trouble for Christians in the early church, was the exclusivity of Christianity and the Christians' refusal to worship any other gods. But even beyond that was the underlying true difference. What was so attractive about Christianity that caused people of that time, and still today, to embrace it despite not only social rejection, but also the risk of torture and even death? And that difference is that Christianity is the only true religion, and every other option in the end rings false. To those who opened their hearts and minds to the truth and were willing to submit to the Lord of all, Christianity was the only option that could possibly be embraced, no matter the cost.